Please welcome to the stage Scott Brighton, Kelly Capote, and John Manganaro from Bonterra.
Hey everybody. My name is Scott Brighton, CEO of Bonterra. As I was walking out onto the stage, I was handed this clicker and told, under no circumstance, press the red button. And now literally it's the only thing I can think about is pressing the red button. But I am not going to do that. But what I am going to do is give away some money. So Bonterra, in partnership with AWS, is over the course of this conference giving away $40,000. And right now, under one of your chairs is a donation for $2,000 for your nonprofit. So look under the chairs. If it's not under any of your chairs, run around and sit in other chairs that are empty, and hopefully one of you will find it. All right, there we go. All right. So let's talk about anxiety. When I talk to our nonprofit customers, right now there is a palpable sense of anxiety. This is not surprising given the state of fundraising right now. And with my colleagues here, we are not candidly intending to try to relieve that anxiety, but rather to help you harness it, focus it, and translate it into action. A little bit about Bonterra before I get into the main message. We are a software company for social good. We provide software to nonprofits to help them fundraise, to help them measure and manage impact, to help them manage their case operations. And we also provide software for funders to help them give money away, grants, engage employees in volunteerism efforts or employee giving programs. And our vision we call 3% by 33, which is the idea that to date, philanthropic giving has been about at a rate of 2% of GDP for 50 years. Our ambition, working with our customers, is to expand that to 3% over the next decade, and to do that by making it easier to bring our nonprofit customers, whose biggest problem is raising money, together with our funding customers, who, believe it or not, biggest problem is giving money away. What I want to talk to you today about is this idea of fundraising concentration. And this has been made viscerally clear as an issue this year because of what's happened with federal funding. But candidly, this has been an issue in the nonprofit world for the last several decades. We are in a period of increasing fundraising concentration year after year after year over the course of multiple decades. If you look at government grants, nonprofits over $1 million in revenue rely on over 40% of their revenue from the federal government. Right? Extreme concentration. If you look at individual giving, the same pattern exists. 20 years ago, 2/3 of Americans gave. Today it's less than 50%. Sustainer rates of people that give year after year, it used to be 30%, now it's less than 20%. Fewer people with larger donations. And then another form of concentration that we see is channel concentration. Most nonprofits rely on one or at most two different fundraising channels for their funds, despite the fact that we know empirically that if you use 3 or more fundraising channels, the lifetime value of a donor increases 3x. The reason concentration exists, and my wife is the executive director of a nonprofit, and when I was talking about this, she's kind of rolling her eyes, as many of you may be. It's easy for me to stand up here and say, you need to diversify fundraising, but it is hard, right? If you're trying to replace federal grants with private grants, you inevitably are going to need more of them, which means you're going to have to apply for more grants. If you're looking to replace larger donors or supplement larger donors with smaller ones, it can be expensive to acquire those smaller donors and hard and expensive to retain them. And then lighting up new fundraising channels can be really expensive, right? You need upfront costs, upfront investment, software, people. So it's easier to have a concentrated fundraising strategy. It just is, and that's in part why that's what we're seeing in the market. I will say, though, that while these changes have represented headwinds, there are significant tailwinds that I believe enable us to think about diversification. One of those, obviously, is the emergence of cloud compute and the scalability that it provides. But perhaps most importantly has been the rise of generative AI, or more specifically and more recently, agentic AI. And if you're not familiar with the term agentic AI, it's the notion of generative AI technology that is able to do jobs either autonomously or semi-autonomously. And then you combine both of those with scale players like Bonterra that have a lot of data. We see 680 million donations a day through our platform and understand the behavior of giving. And you couple all that together, and all of a sudden, you unlock the ability to do truly magical things with fundraising. To give you one specific example, one of the things we are working on is an agentic grant writer. And this agentic grant writer will be able to understand your capabilities as a nonprofit. It will understand the funding appetites of thousands and thousands of different funders, and it will be able to craft a grant that highlights the elements of your nonprofit that are going to be particularly appealing to that grant. And so these are the kinds of things that are going to be happening, where in the future, to solve problems, it'll be less about buying software and more about hiring agents. So we're going to go through and show you some of this, both things that exist today and how we're using AI technology today, as well as things that are coming now and tomorrow, which is the Bonterra Network. And the Bonterra Network is a destination that will bring nonprofits and funders together to find each other and build relationships, but also get access to technology, including agents that can help you build those relationships and sustain them over time. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to our Chief Customer Officer, Kelly Capote. Kelly.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So excited to be here to specifically share how we are already helping and tackling the fundraising problem that we're seeing nonprofits face today in our very own customer base. So what I'm going to walk you through is something called our Fundraising Optimization Assessment. This is a tool that's already fully operational today, and so many of our customers are using this every single day to glean insights and actions. What's unique about this capability in the industry is that it's comprised of 12 different AI models that together each look at different aspects of the entire donor journey. And to put this in perspective, the reason that we were able to build this level of intelligence is that it's really due to the depth and breadth of the data we have here at Bonterra across the fundraising ecosystem. So every single day, this intelligence is analyzing 640 million transactions every day. That's a lot of data. And so by using these insights, our customers are able to get a very comprehensive view of their fundraising program, not only the key insights, but even more meaningfully, the next best actions they can take to influence the fundraising outcomes they desire. And so what used to take weeks, months, lots of headcount, resources that we all don't typically have in the nonprofit world is now instantaneously available at your fingertips. And so I'm going to spend a few minutes today to walk you through an example of some of the insights and actions that we were able to derive for one of our very own customers who's advocating against animal cruelty. So let's start at the beginning. This organization first wanted to understand How are we doing with acquiring net new donors? What is our donor acquisition looking like? And more importantly, how is that translating to gross revenue growth over year over year over year? So at first glance, if you look at these charts, we all might think, okay, this looks pretty good. It's a very up and to the right story. But if you dig in a little bit further, these insights were able to glean some pretty compelling data points that require some action. So by looking at other nonprofits working on similar causes, a few things jumped out. Number one, their donor retention rate was 16%. However, the sector average in this space was 33%. So quite a gap between those two numbers. Additionally, the average gift amount that they were seeing was $33 compared to a sector industry average of $117. So this is a little bit of a different story than that up and to the right story that we had without the richness of this data. Second, they wanted to understand, okay, well, within our existing donor base, how are we doing in terms of keeping these donors active? And what you'll see here on this chart is that this organization is generating a very large pool of donors that are lapsing year over year over year. And unfortunately, they've been struggling to find ways to re-engage and reactivate them. So much, in fact, that you'll see they had a 26% decrease in reactivation rate just in the last year. So more work that they can go do. And last but not least, more importantly, they wanted to understand the makeup of the donor and revenue distribution. So shockingly and glaringly, what they were able to uncover is that they've had a challenge in cultivating major donors for their organization. So you can see here, only 7% of their revenue from 10 donors is contributing to their overall revenue, when we know that an industry benchmark is in the 70 to 80% that you would want to have from loyal donors giving over $5,000 per year. And shockingly, 83% of their revenue was coming from that leaky bucket of small donors that they haven't been able to keep engaged, and that's where they're having the lapsed donor problem. So what are they going to do about this? This is where the power of AI comes in. It's not just in the insights, but it's in the action that we're able to go do. So these were just some of the insights, but by looking at it, we have a much more clear picture of what's happening for this nonprofit organization. Number one, they're seeing a low average gift size per donor. Number two, more than 8 out of their 10 new donors are churning. Number three, their pool of lapsed donors are not being reactivated and re-engaged. And lastly, their donors aren't being cultivated into major donors. So they're stuck in this cycle of spending exorbitant amounts of money, having to constantly go out and acquire those small donors. So we're going to talk a little bit about now, what do they go do with those insights? And that's the beauty of our fundraising optimization assessment. You're able to then take those insights and look at what is the next best recommended action that we can do today. So starting with that first problem of their gift size being too small, they're able to now activate what we call our optimize ask functionality to close that gap between the $33 per giver and the industry average of $117 by intelligently optimizing the ask amount for that donor within their unique donor journey. Additionally, once they've acquired those donors and they've got the gift match, the gift amount that's optimized, how can they do a better job at retaining these donors, keeping them engaged? They're able to use what we call a retention model that's going to take their donor base, slice it into cohorts based on potential donor lifetime value, and be able to better understand where to point their resources and their budget for customers that are in the highest potential segment to continue to be donors. So you'll see here, this was able to tell them that they should target the 3,012 donors that they perceive as their committed donors, and that they should allocate 68% of their budget against it. Not only does it tell you the budget allocation, it also gives you recommendations in terms of how often you should be engaging with those donors. That's pretty insightful. Lastly, or not lastly, next, we're all in, so many of us work in nonprofits. We're not going to completely solve the leaky bucket problem. We're going to have donors that lapse. But the question becomes, who are the donors that we should target to actively go out there and help re-engage them and reactivate them? So our reactivation model does just that. It's able to, again, look at the donor base of lapsed donors, and based on that donor lifetime value metric, point you in the right direction. And you'll see here, this organization now knows the 1,255 donors that have the most potential to get reactivated and how much money and resources they should put against that. And last but not least, we need to get more major donors. Again, they only had 10. So this insight is able to serve up who are the 29 donors that they should go cultivate into major donors. That number may sound small, but this would quadruple their major donor giving base. So I don't know about you, but being able to sit down and instantaneously have those insights and actions can really change the game for so many organizations, and we've seen it with our customers firsthand. So that's about as deep as I'm going to go today. I hope you're as excited as we are, because I'm about to hand it over to our Chief Product Officer, John Manganaro, who's going to share how we're making this accessible to you today.
Just to let you know, I'm not catfishing you. Wore the exact same outfit, apparently, as my headshot. So, need to get some more jackets. My accent is Midwest, but I've been living in Texas the last 8 years, and the colloquialisms of the South truly can't be beat. One of my favorites is all hat, no cattle, which is a way of saying, someone can talk a big game, but they really can't back it up. Everything that Kelly just went through, it's not academic. It's not an idea. It's not a philosophy. It's something that we've been doing for over 9 years at this point. Those numbers are empirical, they're proven, and they've been repeated. Our head of data science is a gentleman named Ben Miller that some of you know. He was also the chairman of the Fundraising Effectiveness Project. He works solely on these algorithms and these agents that Scott and Kelly were talking about, and we've been doing so for several years now. So this is not new. This is what really excites us, and we've invested heavily in here. And in terms of what we mean by a network, there are software implications of what we mean. We can talk about platforms and products and software, but the agents that Scott were alluding to is really what gets me excited. So the Bonterra network is really the way all of our software capabilities talk to each other, and we don't want everybody to have to navigate that themselves. We want these agents to play a role. As Scott said, you're going to be hiring these agents more than you're going to be purchasing software and services. So what does that mean in reality? Nonprofits are at the center of our ecosystem. They're at the center of our network. And these relationships that you all have with your supporters, volunteers, and donors, as well as funders, that's still manual effort. Those are relationships that are built on trust. Those relationships built on understanding. You all know each other. This is a tight community. I've been working in the software space in social good for about 8 years now. I get it. I totally get it. I can empathize with you all. But the work and onus is still on you. As Scott mentioned, we're working on AI capabilities to help write grants. Someone still has to write those, and you're still submitting them and hoping you win. So our success metric isn't just having people apply for more grants. We want that yes to come through. And when we're talking to funders, both at the corporate level, community foundations, large international foundations, or high net wealth individuals, we're hearing time and time again that they have money to give. They're trying to figure out how and who to give it to. And that's where we're trying to play a role in the middle. So I'm going to walk through a couple of examples. Kelly went through some of the models that we have in place today. These are things that are in action now. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the near-term future, both in terms of nonprofits working with supporters and nonprofits working with funders. So from a fundraising standpoint, there is a promise that every donor can get a personalized experience. You're seeing this a lot. All of us are as consumers working with different types of tools these days, agentic AI or just even social networking solutions. There's personalization that happens constantly when we are interacting with software, interacting with another entity, but it's choppy. The analogy I use is you're giving one chapter of a story at each time, and when you're engaging with a donor specifically, you're really just treating it almost like a transaction because you're happening to interact with that person at one point in their journey, not the entire life cycle. So data we know from working with volunteers and donors, we have over 25 million active donors, active supporters as a part of our network. Those are people with accounts who are continuing to engage in our software, finding out how to get involved and how to give. We know empirically that people who volunteer and donate, they're twice as likely to donate, and when they donate, it's 3 to 4 times the amount of someone who only donates money. Scott and I were at a very large customer of ours, a big international brand that everybody knows. We were sitting at a boardroom table. We brought that up, and it became apparent within a few seconds that their organization didn't have a view on donors who are also volunteers. Those are completely separate data sets within their nonprofit entity. Someone knows who the volunteers are, someone knows what the donors are, but they don't have a master record of who does both. I'm sure that resonates with a few people out there. Why is that important? Well, in order to really understand someone's full journey, not just have one chapter of it, it's important to know if they volunteer and donate. It's important to know when they donate. It's important to know the wording in your outreach campaigns that gets someone to donate, to convert them to a reoccurring donor, to a sustaining donor, which according to the Fundraising Effectiveness Project work last year was something that was slipping that we're trying to get our hands around. We want people to stay engaged, and from the supporter community, when you talk to folks, they really are trying to figure out how and when I can get involved, specifically in a local community, and they don't always have an easy answer on how to do that. And we're trying to bring them into our ecosystem, bring them into our network to help them find organizations like you. The analogy we often use internally that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but in reality it's true, we're trying to play a matchmaker service. Not much like a dating app per se, but when Scott talks about having our AI grant writer help you effectively write a grant, that's amazing, but it needs to resonate with the funder, and it really needs to hit on the points that they want you to hit on. Now, of course, you don't want to try to be something you're not to a funder. You want to represent yourself accurately, but there's thousands and thousands of grants and thousands of funders out there. Someone still needs to sift through that and hit submit and write grants differently depending on who you're submitting it to. Same thing happens with working with supporters, with individual donors. So we're really trying to bring a holistic journey to this. A lot of the work that Kelly was just talking about, we're enhancing it. As I said, we've been doing that for years. And what we're trying to do now is help you reach out to supporters, donors, and volunteers at the right point to keep them engaged, to keep them donating, but also working with you, also converting people who are just donors to volunteers, just volunteers to donor, and making them more active with your organization and the community. So who needs to be engaged when? What should you say when you reach out to them? What is their preferred means of communication? Should you send them an SMS, an email? What time of day? What wording should you use? How much money should you ask for? That was really the thesis around Optimize Ask, right? And so if people are lapsing, if donors are lapsing, or we've lost a few volunteers that used to be actively engaged, how and when do we re-engage them? So Scott gave away some money. There's a QR code up on the screen, which I know has been omnipresent today. There's 2 things that this QR code will allow you to do. There's 2 reasons to scan it right now. One, the assessment that Kelly went through, we can do that in a highly automated fashion for you. Think of it like an annual physical or a checkup you'd go to for a doctor. You can upload anonymized funder data in a simple Excel spreadsheet. We can give you an analysis and recommendations. That's one. If you trip up on that at all or want some help, I will gladly have our data scientist, Ben Miller, walk you through it. He loves talking to customers. Second reason is 2 people who do this today are going to be selected for $10,000 donations from Bonterra. We're not selling you anything. You don't have to purchase anything. It's a free assessment on your fundraisers. It's part of our Optimize Ask program. If you want to talk to our data science team about how it works, they'd be happy to do it. Or if you just want to try to win $10,000, you can go sign up there as well. I'm going to put it back up. Don't worry. We'll put it back up again. So what about the other connection between social good organizations, nonprofits, and funders? Funders in our world are corporations, community foundations, high net worth individuals, large international foundations, people in aggregate who are looking to fund large amounts of money to causes and nonprofits they care about. For them, as we've seen public funding become a fun topic recently, the private market is getting hit more. We're seeing more and more organizations reach out to private funders and foundations to fill in some gaps where public funding may be at risk. So from people receiving the grants, the applications are growing. The number of grants they have to review are growing. They need help too. And so the agent that they're hiring is what the other side of this handshake we've built on Grant Match. We want the organizations receiving these grants to be able to sort them and prioritize them based on their selection criteria. And oftentimes these are invite-only grants. They may be private, but when we talk to these organizations, there is a method to their selection. And so even if you don't know that selection process as a nonprofit, we would like to help the grant makers at least sort the grants in a way that says these are really aligned to your mission, to what your foundation or funder group wants to see as a result. And I can tell you the thing consistently that they're putting more emphasis on is impact data. It's evidence. It's proof that you're delivering your mission. It's data around it. The narrative is beautiful. Everybody loves hearing the stories of people and families that get help. But in aggregate, how are you driving outcomes, not just outputs? That's becoming more and more prevalent in grants, and with good, clean data, these agents, this application process through software can really highlight your impact at an aggregate level and tie it to the beautiful narrative that you can write in the application. It's both. It's qualitative storytelling and quantitative evidence, and I can tell you from the scoring methodologies, those ones get prioritized. It's becoming more and more common. And so that's what we're really trying to solve on the funders side, all within our network. We want to be able to connect folks through our databases. A lot of these are open grants, some of them aren't. We have both. We want to be able to match it quickly. We don't want you to spend time sifting through hundreds and hundreds of pages and reading all these different grants and funding opportunities that you can apply for. We want to highlight the ones that you should apply for, help you quickly apply, and then put you in a priority position to win, not just streaming out as many applications as you possibly can. That's what we're focusing on. And so when we talk about the chapter story there, it's not just working with volunteers and donors at the individual level. It's really partnering strongly with funders and putting yourself in the best position to get that W, to get that win on the grant. And I can tell you our head of engineering flew from Romania here. He was on a 9-hour flight, and he put his headset on and he coded for 8 hours. And when he landed, he showed our team what he was able to do on an 8-hour international flight on very little sleep. And the pace at which we are building this is like something I haven't seen in 25 years of software product management. He truly did in 8 hours what I was used to having 4 developers do over the course of a week. He did it on an 8-hour flight on very little sleep. The point of me saying this is there's the usual words you hear when you talk about tech innovation, disruption, all those things. The pace at which this is being built is like nothing we've ever seen. These agents that we're used to working with, like ChatGPT, for instance, the rate that it's getting smarter is truly amazing. And from the software standpoint, we're putting our investments into the AI and agents, not just building software features and capabilities that everybody has to navigate through, just cut to the answer. Give me the solution, give me the information I need to take action, and help my organization be put in a position to win. We're going to be building this really quickly. So this is the same QR code as before. If you open it, you're like, this is the same link. It is. But we will be able to reach out to you depending on what you want to do. We can do the fundraising assessment. We can get you enrolled in this grant matching algorithm that's already coming to market. If you want to do one or the other, we're happy to do both. But I promise you, if you start to join this journey with us today, or I know many of you are already customers, the rate at which this is going to come out and how smart this gets is going to be shocking to you. So in the months ahead, not years, you're going to see so many of these agents figure out how to help you more, not displace you, help you be a partner, find the grants, find the supporters, continue to engage them correctly, and be able to give you a full view over your organization's ability not just to fundraise, but to execute your mission. And that's incredibly exciting for us. So with that, I'm going to dip out. Would love to chat with anybody else. Thank you so much for sticking around, and good luck to the winners.